I want to dispel a false dichotomy that could easily get baked into the discussion unless we push back on it. Supporters of this proposal believe that it is needed in order to increase Denver's diversion rate from the landfill, and that creates that a fee is needed to increase the diversion rate, and that creates a false impression that if you don't support the fee, then you must not support increasing diversion from the landfill. That is untrue. All of us who will end up opposing this program based on the fee, we also believe that we need to increase diversion. We simply believe that the fee is not a necessary tool to achieve that. That in fact it is a deleterious factor to our cost burden households until and unless, as Councilman Herndon said, we do the public education that has never adequately been done. Repeal the compost fee, provide 95-gallon recycling carts to our households by default rather than the smaller ones. No wonder people want weekly recycling. They're filling the smaller carts. Give them the bigger cart. It costs less money, lowers our carbon footprint, and doesn't burden our struggling families with higher costs to live in this city. I disagree with one of the speakers who said that if we oppose this, we must want the status quo. We don't want change. We do want improvement. We just don't find that the fee is required to do that, especially at this time. But if we go ahead and institute the fee, followed by robust education, mandating diversion through that initiative that's on the ballot, mandating diversion through from large multifamily, commercial businesses, we will end up with a higher diversion rate, and some folks will declare victory by giving credit to the fee, when in fact, the real reason will be the changes that will be made by the citizens' initiative, should it pass, to mandate diversion from the biggest contributors to the waste stream, which is large multifamily, commercial, and construction demolition. Also, with regard to the many remarks we heard about the large multifamily subsidizing single family and small multifamily, I need to make something very, very clear about the nature of this town. The portrayal of single family households as being affluent may be true in some neighborhoods, but in Southwest Denver, and I suspect in some of our other districts of which I'm not overly familiar, in Southwest Denver, they tend to be much more humble. We have some pretty high valued homes in some areas of my district, but they tend to be much more humble. I've been in Margaret's home, I've been in Rosario's home in Brentwood. They came down here from Brentwood, a 1940s post-war neighborhood, wood frame bungalows that very well could be ground zero for gentrification part 2. They came down to testify about the hardship this will cause them as fixed income seniors. They are not among Denver's affluent. Many of whom, in fact, do live in luxury multifamily developments. They live in high rises downtown and elsewhere. So let's not make this about class warfare, please. There are poor households in many of our single family neighborhoods, as Councilwoman Torres just outlined in her district. Just as there are wealthy households in multifamily neighborhoods, in high-rise condos, and the modern luxury apartments in this town. So let's be clear on that. And even with inadequate public education on this, many of our customers in the residential trash program already are doing what we ask of them. My constituents have expressed frustration to me that after recycling, sometimes with 2 bins and composting, they're going to be charged now after doing the right thing. I've heard from seniors who put out their trash carts only once every several weeks because they generate so little and recycle so much. It's not an incentive to do better if you're doing all that you can and you still have to pay. There is no opt-out here. I've had constituents who've been doing what we asked of them tell me that they're now if they're going to be charged for the black cart, no matter what they do, they might as well just toss everything in it and not even bother recycling or composting. A few weeks ago at committee, I showed my slideshow tour of the apartments and commercial dumpsters in my district. They were overflowing with more than half of the waste in them being recyclable or compostable. I cannot ask the people who already are largely doing the right thing by filling 1 or 2 recycle bins to pay up to $252 a year, while we are not mandating diversion from the 82% of the market that throws such enormous amounts of needless waste into the landfill. I cannot ask people who are struggling with 8.5% inflation, $5 a gallon gas, the prospect of higher utility bills through Xcel's upcoming time of day pricing, plus more fees potentially on this November's ballot, to pay up to $252 a year for this. Large families with lots of kids will be hit the hardest. I believe this is a terrible thing that we're doing tonight to the struggling families of this city. Most of them already doing the right thing with recycling. And if we remove the fee from composting, more would join them. We often talk up here about how expensive it is to live in this city, yet here we are, adding to the cost burden for many of my struggling families. My vote tonight is with them. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Flynn.